Hello everyone. Welcome to this meeting. Today we will discuss about transitioning into the tech industry, and we will also discover and talk about some Postman Student Programs and etc. Today we are joined by Claire. First of all, I would like to thank Claire for her time. Would you like to introduce yourself, Claire?
Sure. Like Chetan said, my name is Claire Freilich, and I am a student community manager at Postman. Chetan and I know each other because he is a student leader in our Postman community, and he's been doing awesome stuff teaching about APIs. It's really an honor to be invited to speak at your club today, and I'll be talking a little bit about my strange path into tech.
Yeah, awesome. I'm really excited to hear all about it. So, should I just open your presentation?
Sure, yeah, we can go ahead and get started.
All right, let me just give the presentation. Okay.
Yeah, so as mentioned, I have an unconventional entrance into tech. I'll get into it a bit deeper, but long story short, I was an interpreter and translator for 6 years before, changing careers into tech. So I'll talk a little bit about, the other ways to enter this industry. Again, my name is Claire Freilich down here, and feel free to follow me on GitHub or Twitter or search my name on LinkedIn. If any of you are, trying to figure out what you want to do with your careers, feel free to reach out, and, I'll give any advice I can, but also just happy to hear, what you're thinking of doing with your life after school. So I mentioned I had kind of a meandering path into tech. It started out like I was going into tech. When I started university in 2009, I entered to study electrical engineering. This is because my favorite courses in high school were physics and the sciences, and I was especially interested in electricity. But as it turns out, I have a lot of interests. So while I was studying engineering, I was also studying Japanese and Spanish at the same time. And ultimately, I decided to switch my focus from engineering to Japanese. So I abandoned the engineering path and went down the liberal arts path. And eventually, 4 years later, I graduated with my Bachelor of Arts in Japanese. Also a minor in Spanish and almost linguistics. So as you can see, my entire study became the arts. During these 4 years, I actually switched universities a couple of times too, due to cost, due to programs that fit Japanese better. I also did study abroad in Tokyo for 1 year, which is where I really solidified skill in Japanese. And then eventually, after graduating, I got my first job as an interpreter. So I was working for the local government in Japan in a city called Sapporo in very northern part of Japan. It's a really big city of 2 million people. And I was lucky to have the opportunity to become an interpreter for the mayor and the city officials there. So to be honest with you, it was a big jump because I did not feel qualified to be a mayor's interpreter as my first job. But it was a government program which gave me this wonderful opportunity to work in a Japanese city hall. So all this while, of course, I still had this interest in tech on the side. And even though my job was interpreter and I was, translating documents, interpreting for meetings, I also, kept tech alive in my interest. One of the things I did was build a small tool in JavaScript that would translate addresses. There's a special guideline, rules for how to translate addresses from Japanese into English according to city guidelines. And I just used some regex to make it a very simple process that my coworkers could use with no knowledge of English, just to click a button and it would translate addresses. So I was able to still tinker around with code a little bit, even though my job title was interpreter. I did that for 3 years. It was a great experience, traveling and meeting people from all over the world. I ended up staying in Sapporo for 2 more years, working at Amazon Japan as my next job. I was still doing this kind of interpreter role. Amazon Japan is unique in that not all of the managers speak English, as opposed to, like Amazon India, Amazon China. Most of the management, they speak English, but in Japan, they needed somebody to help bridge communication between headquarters in Seattle, other Amazon sites. So I was lucky to get that unique role. And again, this is another very unique chance because even though I did not study business or I did not study engineering, I got to work at every single level of business in Amazon Japan, from like helping the people that support you on the phone to the president of Amazon Japan. I'd be on those types of meetings. So I got to see how business works, like very up close, because I had to interpret all of these meetings. And again, even though it's not necessarily my job title to do development types of things, I still found a way to be involved with tech. Obviously, Amazon is a big tech company, so there was resources to learn inside the company. And on our team, like we were supporting people selling in Japan products. So like you or I could become sellers on Amazon Japan, and they need support. So it's basically a call center. And the problem was a lot of the support agents did not speak English, but there are sellers in Japan that only speak English, like foreign sellers. So we needed to support them somehow. I helped lead this project to get together different people to build a tool in like PHP and SharePoint that can help, everybody in our team can contribute phrases in English and Japanese that other people can view and like kind of copy paste when they're doing this support. So again, this is another instance where my job title was interpreter, translator, but I still got to, kind of shape my role to fit my interests. And that's a common theme that I'll keep bringing up. So after that, I kind of plateaued with Japanese. Like I'd been working as an interpreter for 6 years and I really enjoyed it. I met so many different interesting people. I got to go to, Switzerland and interpret for our mayor when he tried to pitch the Olympics being held in Sapporo. I got to go to like UNESCO conferences. It was amazing, but I really kind of hit a level of interpreting where I was comfortable enough in Japanese that I didn't have to push myself very hard to get by. But if I wanted to be like a UN interpreter or something, I would have to push myself very, very hard. And I didn't know if that's the way I wanted to continue with my career. So I ended up quitting my job. I had spent all of my adult life in Japan up until this point. I wanted to see more of the world. So I was traveling, and I would travel in South America while doing Japanese translation online. So this was special to me in that like websites, I had this translation agency called Gengo, and I was fascinated by this technology because it enabled me to be anywhere in the world, and I could get clients very easily for Japanese translation. And that actually helped myself pay for my travels in South America. It wasn't enough money to like sustain myself long term, but it was definitely enough to, pay for my travel. And while I was traveling, I got the idea of, okay, I know Japanese is really only useful for, work in Japan. I want a job where I'll be able to be anywhere. And I know I had this interest in technology from before. This is my time to like dedicate myself to studying and legitimately getting into tech. So that's when I went to a boot camp in 2019. I went to, I don't know if you have boot camps around where you are, but it's basically like a intensive short-term study of something. So for my boot camp, I did web development, full stack web development, and it was a 9-week course. So it goes from you knowing zero about, you don't even have to know JavaScript or HTML. It starts from that level. And by the end of 9 weeks, you build 2 applications, full stack applications, in a programming language called Ruby on Rails or framework. And That was very important turning point for me because up until that point, I had done self-study. And I kept hitting this wall every time I was studying where I just couldn't quite get all the pieces to fit together to build an application. Like this bootcamp A helped me jump over that wall. I finally built 2 applications with a team. So I learned how to collaborate while coding. And second, I was introduced to this large network of developers through the bootcamp. The bootcamp I attended is called Le Wagon, and it's actually in many countries around the world. Interestingly, it's not in the United States, but it was in Canada where I went. So being in that network, I suddenly had access to thousands of developers around the world. Because I was very open to new opportunities, when one of my teaching assistants reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have a project I need some help with. Would you be interested?" I said, "Yes, that sounds like a good experience." And that's how I got my first freelancing job as a website developer, working with this partner. And for both of us, this was the first time we had such a large project. And actually, thanks to this project, I was able to pay for the entire 9-week bootcamp that I had done. So already I was seeing, I had a 9-week transition into tech, and it was already paying for itself almost immediately afterwards. I was like, okay, this is a very interesting field to be in. It was very fun. And after the website, I started doing hackathons. Maybe you're familiar with these, but you get some sort of challenge and you have a certain amount of time to code it, and you're competing with other people. So through doing these hackathons, I got recognized by a company that was doing hackathons called MintBean, and they actually hired me as a developer there. So this became like my first developer job, and this was a very unique experience as well because this company was like very, very startup. When I joined, we were building the platform from scratch. So this was such a special opportunity as a developer to be from the very first lines of code, building this full stack platform for giving hackathons and hosting events. So there was a lot of complex backend stuff to build, a lot of dynamic front-end stuff to build. I learned a lot about DevOps, and I got to work directly with the CTO of the company because it was just 3 of us on the dev team. And this was such a great experience because I had mentorship. And as we hired new developers, I was able to mentor them. So, I don't know if you're familiar with this, probably are, but if you're teaching something, you really have to understand it well. And, in addition to being mentored, mentoring other people is a great way to solidify your knowledge. Yeah, I'm sure Chetan knows that.
I agree with that completely.
Yeah, you're very involved with that. So while I was, becoming a stronger developer through direct mentorship at MintBean, I was also getting involved with an open source project. It was totally a chance thing. This team called Redwood.js came and did a workshop for us at MintBean. I was like, hey, this project is really cool. And I was just chatting with these guys on the team. And eventually they found out, I had a background in language. And they're like, hey, we're interested in translating our tutorial so that people can learn how to use Redwood.js. And eventually I became a core team member of Redwood.js and built their learn.redwoodjs.com website that has their tutorial in multiple languages. And even today, I'm still maintaining that website and helping maintain the translation. So anybody that wants to translate stuff can come in. I help kind of coordinate that so it gets on the website. So this is another example of just being open to opportunities and like following your interest can lead to amazing things. This team, Redwood.js, one of the members is the co-founder of GitHub. And it was just crazy to me that, after, that 9-week bootcamp, being in a job for like, less than a couple months, I've already doing work with the co-founder of GitHub. It just really opened my eyes to how tech is such an equal opportunity space. If you have the passion or the interest in anything, you'll find yourself ending up on calls with some very interesting minds. I've met so many interesting people, even though we've been in the pandemic, through online communities. And it sounds like you guys have a good club community at your university, but you have access to communities, around the world thanks to the internet. So take advantage of that. And eventually, also through MintBean, I was giving workshops on how to use this tool called Postman, which we were using on our team at MintBean. I thought it was such a useful tool. I really wanted developers in our community to use it for their API building. And so I did a little workshop, and one of the employees from Postman happened to come to the workshop, and they reached out to me and said, hey, we're hiring right now. Would you be interested in applying for any of these positions? And I did. And eventually, that's how I came to have the job that I have now. So again, like I said, it was a meandering path into tech. I tried to kind of color code it here about like what is kind of the tech side and what is the language and liberal arts side in red and blue. And you can see that they kind of weave in and out, but the moral of the story is like, I know a lot of you are in, CS programs or engineering programs right now. Maybe down the road, your path will change. Like you find another interest and you think, hey, I want to pursue that. It doesn't mean that you're giving up on tech entirely. And in fact, skills that you get outside of engineering, for example, being an interpreter, getting that business experience, living in another country for 6 years, understanding language and translation to a deep level that can be applicable in tech, like it is for the Redwood.js website. So it all transfers, and follow your heart while you can. So yeah, the takeaways from my story are, again, follow your heart. Sometimes you don't know what job you want to do. And even now, it's an evolving process for myself. I've been working for almost 10 years now. But you can see I've tried this, I've tried that. And each time I keep getting closer and closer, or I'm always, adjusting my path to meet my passions. And when you do that, when you're following your passions and saying yes to opportunities that are exciting to you, networking is going to come naturally. So I never went out of my way to say, oh, I have to network in order to get a job or something. Although every single job I've gotten has been through networking. I'd never had this, where I put out 500 applications and hope somebody contacts me back. Every next job I've gotten has been through some sort of connection, but it hasn't been deliberate. It's just been because I'm, working on an open source project or giving a presentation and somebody happens to come. For the Amazon job, my friend that I studied Japanese with worked at Amazon, and she put my resume into the system, which is how I got the job. So again, you don't have to force networking if you're following your passion. And every skill that you pick up in any job is going to transfer to another job. It's just a matter of how you frame it when you're applying for a job. So again, my interpreting skills, while I don't necessarily use Japanese at Postman, my experience with, translating for managers and working with business teams has given me a lot of insight in how to run programs, for example, or how to report on things in a business review. So all of these skills are transferable. Don't let your job title limit you. Even while I was an interpreter, I found ways to weave in tech and my other skills and interests. I especially think this is easy to do if you find a job that your manager is very flexible and it kind of lets you define your role. I've been lucky to have those types of jobs so far. And again, tech is an equal opportunity space. Everything you need to learn, you've got people that can help you online, you've got community, you've got lots of resources that are free. I think it's one of the easiest, it's not easy, but it's one of the easiest ways to get into an exciting field and quickly make back the money that you invest and the time that you invest in learning it. And lastly, life is very short. There's no time for imposter syndrome. I'd say the majority of my time working, I've always struggled with imposter syndrome. That includes when I was an interpreter, that includes especially my first dev job. And the thing is, I think I finally am starting to get over it now, realizing like nobody is ever exactly meeting the job description. They always have that ideal description for a job, but if you show up and you're doing your best, you're not letting your anxiety prevent you from challenging yourself, you're going to step into the role and perhaps exceed it. So if you struggle with imposter syndrome, just remember, like, life is short. There's no need for the anxiety. Just try it. What's the worst that's going to happen? And yeah, that's all about my career journey. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have. But before we go into Q&A, I wanted to tell you just a little bit about Postman, which is the company I work at now. It's where Chetan is a student leader and has been helping us teach other students. If you haven't heard of it before, Postman is a free tool for developers to work with APIs. And API stands for Application Programming Interface. And it's just a fancy way of saying an abstraction that helps you integrate things into your code or integrate your code into other people's applications. So Postman is a tool that will help you develop APIs, test APIs, document APIs, try out consuming APIs, and it's used by 17 million developers worldwide. Over 500,000 organizations are using Postman. So again, remember I was working at Mintbean, we were using Postman there. Basically, if you learn Postman while you're in school, and if you're a developer especially, you're going to be ahead of the game when you graduate, because a lot of these companies are already using Postman. Again, what's an example of something you can do with an API? If you're building an application, you don't have to reinvent the wheel to add cool features to your application. For example, let's say you have a website and you want to sell something on the website. You can add payments just by using like the PayPal API or the Stripe API, so people can use their credit card to make payments on your website. You don't have to reinvent the whole payment system or worry about legal issues. Well, you have to be concerned about legal issues a little bit, but all of the complex stuff is abstracted away into a simplified interface that you can plug into your application. That is APIs, and Postman can help you integrate those, into your applications. So if you want to learn more about APIs, we have a free training, several free trainings, but the one I'll recommend today is the Postman Student Expert Training. So this will take you from knowing zero to understanding how to use Postman in a short amount of time. It's a self-paced training, so do it at your own speed. Sorry, I have a cold today, so my voice is a bit silly. Once you finish it, you'll be awarded a digital badge. So you can put this on your LinkedIn. You can share this in your resume, and companies will know that you understand Postman and know how to use it. And you can also, once you are a student expert, apply to become a student leader on your campus. I think your campus already has one, but when Chetan graduates, we'll need a new student leader on your campus. So as a student leader, you have the opportunity to teach about APIs. We give you money and support and materials, opportunities to speak, and it's a great way to build your leadership skills. So if you want, you can take a screenshot of this whole slide. It has all the links here that will take you to ways to get involved and start training with Postman. I'll also send these slides to Chetan so he can share them with you. Just two more quick introductions here. 30 Days of Postman is another training that's self-paced, and it's these 30 mini challenges that will take you through every single feature of Postman. This is a great one to really master the tool, and you also get a badge on completion. This is pretty great training. I really recommend it after Student Expert. Lastly, we have a community on Discord where you can meet other developers around the world. We do regular events and prizes, and we also do real-time help. So if you get stuck with something in Postman, just shoot a chat here, and there's lots of people ready to help. So again, that's just a quick introduction on there's more than one way to get into tech, and I hope that you're interested in learning a little bit about Postman, because I know in my journey into tech, Postman was one of the tools that really helped me teach myself about APIs, which is it's really hard to avoid APIs in software these days. So I recommend you check these things out. And yeah, that's all from me. But if there's any questions in the chat, and feel free to let me know.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that awesome presentation. It was really enjoyable to hear, and the presentations were really awesome. I really like the animations and etc. So we have some couple of questions. Let me just remove the presentation, and if I click show, it should show. Okay. So this is the first time I'm trying this, but it seems to work. Yeah. So one of the questions is, there are companies that offer free bootcamps in Turkey. What do you think about this topic? I guess this is something like mostly in the European or European countries, or in United States, most bootcamps are paid. Do you?
Yeah, that's a great point. So I'm not sure exactly which boot camps you're referring to, but usually I've seen two pay models. The ones that are free, usually they let you take the courses for free, and there's an agreement that you will pay off the course after getting a job. So like for the next 2 years or so after working, you keep paying back the boot camp as a thank you. That's usually how that works. If it's totally free, that's awesome. The other payment method is, you pay upfront, or you pay in chunks, like 4 chunks or something. The nice thing about boot camps is, they are shorter. So the amount of coursework that you're paying for is less. It's not going to cost as much as a 4-year university. I would say compared to a 4-year university, obviously 9 weeks versus 4 years, you're going to be much more in depth, and you're doing a broader range of topics in your degree. That said, boot camps in Europe and North America, especially right now, are becoming a very popular entryway into tech for people like me that had another career before. If you're already in a computer science program, I don't know if you need to go to a boot camp, because you'll have the skills by the time you graduate, unless you want to change your specialty. I know there's like data science boot camps, for example. Let's say that wasn't covered very thoroughly in your school, but you're interested in it. A boot camp might be a good idea. And I just looked it up. The school that I went to, Lewagon, which is one of the best coding boot camps in the world, according to a couple of studies. It originated in France, but they have campuses almost all over the world. There is one in Istanbul, and maybe other places in Turkey, but I know there's one in Istanbul. And in terms of cost versus education, in the bootcamp world, I feel like Lewagon is very reasonable. So I don't know if it's spelled Lewagon, Lewagon. It means like the wagon.
It's kind of like French.
It's French, but you don't need to know French to take school there.
Mm-hmm. But it has a kind of like interesting name.
Yeah. Well, it's like everybody gets on the bus to learn together type of concept.
I see. So Batnay has another question. His question is, does your previous leadership matter in your current position?
Yes. And, honestly, any leadership skill you pick up anywhere is always going to be useful in any job that you do. In my case, not only was I working as an interpreter before, but some things I didn't mention was like I was leading projects at Amazon. For example, we had an employee exchange program where we'd send employees to live in other places for a little while, and they would come to Japan and vice versa. So I had opportunity to like lead projects and lead, collection of documents for business review, etc. Yeah, those skills definitely apply to my current job. My title here is Student Community Manager, but within our team, we have 4 student community managers, and we all have kind of different specialty tasks within our team. And my role right now, I'm kind of doing, leading a project on getting curriculum into universities in Europe and North America, and also eventually around the world as well. So yeah, these skills definitely apply. It never hurts to have leadership skills, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. Before we continue the questions, I also wanted to talk about my experience with the student leader program. Like I wanted to talk about this, but I didn't want to interrupt you. Like I think I've been the part of the community. I've been a student leader for under a year, and I have experienced a lot of growth in that time. Mainly due to the opportunities and the wonderful people I get to meet in the program. For example, the student summit helped me uh, help me make my workshops more entertaining, and it was like the first time I made a presentation in front of more than 200 people. um, and it was really enjoyable to prepare, and it was really exciting to uh, watch others' presentations too. After that event, some people reached me out through LinkedIn just because they saw that I was speaking at the summit, and some other student communities, mainly in India, reached me out like, "Hey, I loved your session. Would you want to do a, for example, a GraphQL workshop in our event?" and etc. Like uh, it was really good to hear them, because like I didn't think it was a really big event for me. I just made some like an API REST versus GraphQL, but some people really enjoyed it, and it made me extremely happy.
That's exactly, like, even something you think is small, like you were passionate about this presentation. It was so funny. He like compared GraphQL and REST APIs to pizza, I remember.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, that like passion is recognized by other people, and they naturally want to reach out to you. And now you have a digital footprint. You're on YouTube, so anybody that missed the presentation can go search Chetan's name on YouTube and you'll find it. But yeah, we love that presentation, and I'm happy that it's been opening doors for you.
Yeah, yeah. So we have last two questions. Um this question is, how much attention is paid to our diploma in other countries, especially in companies that you worked before or now? I see that this is like a main concern of many students in, like, uh, I've seen this in India too, like in Turkey, in India. Most students compare their diplomas to like some United States universities.
Mhm. It really depends on what types of jobs you're looking for. I can't speak to like places outside of North America because I've only in Japan. It's like my field of experience with working. But I'm finding there's a trend in tech right now where you graduated from is really not so important. What you can bring to the table, for example, your portfolio showing what you've built, what kinds of projects you've built, what types of open source projects you've been involved with, showing that you're proactive and excited. These things are becoming much more weighted than what university you came from. So I would say, I'm not sure about those FANG companies like Facebook, Google, etc., but I really find they care much more about your ability than where you came from. And whether that be you've self-taught yourself, that can show that you have a lot of skill, and being able to teach yourself is very important as a developer. Boot camps fall into that as well, because you went out of your way to teach yourself in a short amount of time. um, it's a great time to be getting into tech right now globally, because A, we need a ton of devs in this pandemic as things are becoming more digital, and B, this traditional you need a 4-year degree or a master's degree mentality has really shifted, especially thanks to the bootcamp landscape expanding. So yeah, I would say your only problems with applying to companies overseas are going to be visa issues. And
Yeah.
some countries are more forgiving than others. It's not easy to uh, you know pay for developers to get their visas and stuff, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I see it all the time. So just apply.
Hmm. I also agree with that. Like, I've seen many people uh, getting into FANG companies without any degrees, just by self-studying or from unheard universities. Like, um, I think it's better a person that studies every day to, on self-pacing, like develops projects, uh, attends online courses and etc. Plays parts in communities, has a huge networking opportunity. And I think, as you have said, networking plays a massive role in employment. And I've also seen that the in tech industry, at least, I don't know about other industries. In tech industries, like the diploma is value of diploma is, I feel like, getting lower. If you're in a top 100 university, I think, like, yeah, that would have an impact. But other than that, I think the value is also getting lower. The skills are more important.
Skills and community, like you said, just because that's usually how you get introduced to these roles. When people know your face already or like your personality, sometimes they just want to hire you on your personality, even if your skill isn't quite where it needs to be yet. And another thing that's nice about community is you can compare offers. Because I know when I got my first job as a developer, I had no idea what the pay or like the conditions in tech was like. And I just was so wanted my first job. I would take like anything that came. And I know some friends that have like horror stories of just taking that first job. I just talked to somebody this weekend that the startup company had no money and they had all of their employees live inside the same house. So they would like wake up in the morning, be at work, be doing hours and be told you have no vacation and this crazy stuff. So the nice thing about having a community, you can compare situations and see if the job that's making an offer to you might be exploiting you. Again, once you have these skills to offer it to a team, you need to advocate for yourself to be treated properly.
Yeah, well said, well said. uh I also I wonder about that story about that, like, the employees piling up, but I
It
guess
was
it's a
bad.
story for another time. So
I will
our
say
last
having before we go on though, I will say like having that bad experience early on, like if you're able to leave it soon, it's also a good way to know your boundaries early on. You're like, this is not okay. I will never take a job like this again. So if you
Mhm.
find yourself in that situation, realize that and know that you should get out.
Yeah, everything is an experience. Like, I
That's right.
I am in the same position as of now. Like, I know some general aspects of the industry, but as I've never been a part of it, I don't know the conditions. Like, I don't know if the pay they're going to pay me is great for for example, an intern. The
Mhm.
vacations are okay. I don't know. I will learn them by, like, just living.
It's a trade-off. Like I know we have one more question. Sorry to interrupt one more time, but that first job I took at Mint Bean, the pay was very, very low. And I knew that going in. But the trade off for me was I knew I would be working directly with the CTO, who is an experienced senior developer with many years of like Java programming experience. So he's got this like solid foundation. I knew I would learn a lot from that. So I went in knowing I wouldn't stay there forever, but that the experience would be good. So think of the trade off. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So our last question is: Have you ever felt down making have you ever felt down making all those career shifts? I'm working as a uh, FS dev. Is it front end? Is uh,
Full stack maybe?
full stack? Half? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
full stack. I forgot.
I know
Full
so many
stack.
acronyms. That's just my guess.
Yeah, it's it's 100% full stack. Like, I usually don't see the acronym for full stack. Just everyone just writes full stack, so I get mixed it. I'm working as a full stack developer, and spending time learning Web3 feels like a betrayal. Do you think that the right path would be just going all in? Thank you.
This is a great question. I will say myself, in the last 3 months, I've gotten really into Web3, and I know the hype also has been like off the walls. So I can see why you feel anxious to jump into that. Um, First thing I'll say is with regards to Web3 is not like some totally different paradigm. It kind of builds on top of Web2 in a way. So your experience as a full stack developer is gonna really, you need to be solid in that before you can do well in Web3, I feel like. The only difference with Web3 is that instead of like a centralized database, you would have a blockchain as your database. So if you solidify your skills in working with databases and, you know, querying them, using APIs, building APIs, that is only going to make you a better Web3 developer. So learning the fundamentals first is my recommendation. I know it's tempting to dive into Web3, but the reality is the field itself is very young. And every day, like I've been studying it for 3 months, and the amount it has changed in 3 months, and to keep up with all the new tools, all the new frameworks, all the new changing infrastructure. It's cool if you like want to keep an eye on it, but I would say definitely focus your energy now on Web2 if you're interested in that direction. It's only going to help you. Have you ever felt down making all these career shifts? Yeah, there are sometimes, you know, making a giant career shift is a big decision. Like I had only worked as an interpreter for 6 years, and tech was a totally new field. It was a bit of a gamble for me. I didn't know if I would be a good fit. I already had my experience of leaving tech when I was a freshman in college. So yeah, there's times when I doubted myself, but honestly, again, if you follow your heart, my passion for it outweighed my fear for it. Some days it's not easy. It's not easy to learn software development in 9 weeks. But I'm so glad I did. And who knows, I'm probably going to change again someday. Just keep going with the flow.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for answering the question. Like normally, like web development, web industry also changes a lot, but I think the Web3 is double the speed of that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it's
like
so
hard to
new. It's
keep up.
definitely interesting. Yeah.
So I guess these are all the questions I see in the chat. Yeah, again, I think we can end the Q&A right now.
Okay.
So I would like to again thank you for spending your time with us. Thank you for coming. Thank you for preparing an awesome presentation. We as a community are really glad to have you in this webinar. So yeah.
Thank you. Again, it's a real honor to be invited to speak here. I always love working with Chetan, and I'll send you these slides so you can have my contact information, and feel free to click on any of these Postman links if you want to learn more about how Postman can help you as a developer with your APIs.
Yeah, I've already sent the Discord link in the chat if someone wants to join. Yeah.
Great. I think I got cut off here.
Wait, I think there is a question. Could you have a chance to tell your story about your journey? We had a last minute question. Would you like to take it, Claire? Claire? I guess.
Sorry, my internet's not great.
No problem, no problem. We have a last minute question, I think. Would you like to take that? Like, I don't know. Like, it's
could you have a chance to tell your story about the journey? This was my chance today. I don't know if this is recorded, but if you wanted to watch a recording of this, we spent the
the first 15 minutes or 20 minutes we go on over the journey, I think, right?
Hello?
I thought my internet. Okay.
No, it's my internet. It's not great.
No problem.
Sorry, I saw the question. yeah, we spent the first 20 minutes talking about the journey. So I don't know if this was recorded, but if it was, you can
Yeah, it's
watch it.
recorded.
Okay,
Hmm.
perfect.
You can check the recording of this live event.
Great.
Uh,
Well, thank you
yeah,
all for your
everyone is
awesome questions. And sorry, I'm a bit
everyone
sick
is.
today. So if you couldn't hear me, watch the recording. And
No, it was great.
take care. Stay healthy.
Yeah, you were great. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye, Claire.
Bye.